Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Motorcycle Rescue and Review. I recently got to attend the Vintage Japanese Motorcycle Show and Swap Meet in Leesport, PA. That event took place on September 27th, 2025, and it was the best turnout that I have seen to date at that show. There were lots of show bikes there. There were also lots of great vendors, lots of parts for the classic Japanese motorcycles. Walking around the show, there were also lots of cool project bikes for sale, including race bikes, turbo bikes, classic bikes, and more. I also really enjoyed talking to some longtime friends at the show, and I even got to ride one of the classic bikes that was there, but I'll get to that in a little bit. In this video, I'll go through some of my highlights from the show. I'll talk a little bit about each model as we go through the motorcycles that were there, brand by brand. Changing things up a little bit here, the first brand that we'll look at is Yamaha. There were two Yamahas for sale on this trailer. The first one was a Maxim 750 with 12,000 original miles. My dad actually bought one of these brand new in the mid-80s, and I remember being absolutely terrified as he accelerated up to about 90 miles an hour with me on the back. The other Yamaha on this trailer is a 1982 XJ 650 Turbo. The Seika 650 Turbo was Yamaha's entry into the turbo bike scene in the early 80s. Next up, we have this beautiful late 70s Yamaha XS 1100. When the XS 1100 first came out in 1978, it was the quickest production motorcycle in the quarter mile, at least until the Suzuki GS 1000 was tested later in the year. This XS11 has a custom exhaust. It also has some custom racing carbs and pod filters on it, and I'm sure it absolutely hauls in a straight line. Outside the show, in the parking lot, there was this early 90s Yamaha FJ1200. The FJ1200 had a long production run, and it was a fantastic sport touring machine. There were also quite a few of the Yamaha two-stroke dirt bikes at the show. I'm not super familiar with the off-road motorcycles, but it was really cool to see the classic dirt bikes at the show. Moving on to the Hondas, it seems like every classic motorcycle show that I go to lately has a slew of the CBX six-cylinder motorcycles. Although these bikes were not popular when they were originally introduced, and they really didn't sell well, they have become very collectible and very popular on the classic bike scene. The first one we'll look at is the first generation of CBX. This generation of CBX was marketed as Honda's entry into the 1000cc plus superbike market. My favorite design aspect of the CBX is that big six-cylinder motor that's mounted across the frame. It has such mechanical presence, and this one is really cool with the 6x6 stainless steel exhaust on it. It also sounded absolutely outrageous with those pipes, and I'm sorry to say I did not get a video clip of it running. There was also a red first generation CBX at the show. I featured that one more extensively in the video for the Martin Moto motorcycle show. The final CBX is the second generation of CBX. These originally came with Honda line saddlebags and a Honda line front fairing on them. They also got a host of changes, really from front to back, and they are significantly different from the first generation of the CBX. This generation of CBX was marketed more as a sport touring bike. This particular bike had a 6-in-1 Delcovic exhaust on it, and it too sounded absolutely amazing. The next Honda we'll look at is the CB900F Super Sport. I've always thought these were such cool bikes. The CB900F is based heavily on the CB750F Super Sport, and it's essentially an overboard CB750F. The next bike up here is Honda's CX500 Turbo. I think Honda was the only company to introduce two different displacement sizes on their turbo bike. The CX500 was the smallest displacement of the turbo bikes. It had a large turbo and a small motor, and that gave it very nice top end, but it caused the bike to suffer in the mid-range and low end. It was a very complex motorcycle. It was a very advanced motorcycle for the early 80s, featuring not only a turbo, but a liquid-cooled engine and fuel injection. In later model years, Honda simplified the bike. They also enlarged the displacement to 650 cc's and revised the turbo on the bike to give it much more mid-range power where you're going to use it most while riding on the road. This 500 was just an absolutely beautiful example, and it was such a treat to get to see it in Leesport. Stepping outside of the show into the parking lot, I saw this gorgeous VFR 750F. This bike is stunning in the pearl white paint and white wheels, and this was my favorite color scheme of this generation of VFR. Here we have a Magna 750. This bike actually shares the 750cc V4 motor with the VFR 750, although the Magna has a different state of tune that's going to be more appropriate for a cruiser-style motorcycle. Even though this is a cruiser, it is a quick bike, and it was among the quickest of the cruiser-style motorcycles in the early 90s. Here's a Honda that you don't see all that often. It is their CB650. This is a single overhead cam design. This bike was meant to replace the CB550s. I actually like the clean look of this bike. I think it looks pretty nice. And if I get the chance, I'd love to do a ride review of this motorcycle and feature it on this channel. This little CB504 was for sale at the show. This one has the Super Sport exhaust on it, which is a 4-into-1 design. From a rider's standpoint, I have always preferred the 500 and 550 four-cylinder Hondas to the CB750 four-cylinder Honda for the simple fact that they handle much better than the CB750, and in addition, they're only a tick slower in a straight line. Moving down the line, there was this gorgeous purple CB350 Honda there. Honda produced lots and lots of these machines. They were a great basic bike. They were also a great first bike for a lot of riders, and many people got their start in motorcycling on a small displacement Honda. My friend Mike actually brought his green CB350 to the show, and he was kind enough to let me ride it around in the parking lot a little bit, and it brought back some very fond memories of riding my first motorcycle, and that was a CB360 Honda, which came just after the CB350. If you like great motorcycle-related content and you want to help support this channel, please consider becoming a member. Depending on membership levels, members get early access to new videos as well as bonus content, and your support will help me continue to make great quality motorcycling videos for you to enjoy. Moving on to the Kawasaki's at Leesport, there were a host of KZ1000s there, and I've honestly never seen this many of the KZ1000 models at one show at the same time. The green bike in this photo is a highly customized KZ1000. It's set up as a drag bike. Mr. Jim Hammers brought this bike to the show. He's a local Z1 and KZ guru. There are so many trick parts on this bike, and it was so cool to get to see it in person. The next custom KZ we'll look at was also brought by Mr. Hammers. This one has been extensively modified. I would consider this more of a resto-mod bike. It has a ZX14 swing arm and ZX14 front end on it. To create this, they actually had to modify the frame to accept a monoshock rear suspension, and this bike is one of the nicer custom builds that I have seen. In this picture, you can see 3 different flavors of the KZ1000 model. The bike in the foreground is the Z1 Classic. This is one of the first motorcycles to feature fuel injection. The light blue bike is a custom painted KZ1000A model. And the black bike beyond that is the next generation of KZ1000, and this is my KZ1000 CSR. Here's a beautiful KZ1000 LTD. This particular bike has a few tasteful mods like the full stainless Delcovic pipe and a lower handlebar. In this lineup, we can see an S1000 Kawasaki factory race bike from the early 80s. I featured this bike more extensively in a recent video on the Effort of Breakfast ride. The bike behind that is Kawasaki's Z1R. It's also a 1000cc machine, and this was Kawasaki's sport model of the late 70s. And we have a green KZ1000A model just beyond that. The final flavor of KZ1000 we have is an early 80s KZ1000 LTD. This one has been completely customized by my friend. He added the sidecar to it and the army green paint. and this one gets comments wherever he takes it. It's such a cool custom on this classic Kawasaki. There was a single example of the Kawasaki Z1 900 at the show. This bike is a 1974. It is an all-original bike, and it is in beautiful condition. It was great to see it there. Moving on to a classic bike that I don't see all that often. This is a very nice example of the Kawasaki GPZ 750 of the early 80s. I love how clean this bike is and how nice it looks, and it really inspires me to finish up my GPZ 1100 project. Outside the show, there was this cool little KZ 650 drag bike. This one has been thoroughly modified and set up for drag racing. It was really cool to see the KZ 650 done up in this fashion. Here we have a red, white, and blue Kawasaki GPZ 600R. This is one of the first sport bikes of the modern formula, featuring a liquid-cooled 16-valve engine, a 6-speed transmission, and a fully fared sport bike-style body design. When I was a kid, I wanted one of these in the worst way. I thought these were so cool. Another great mid-size sporting Kawasaki was this GPZ 550. This is one of the original mid-size sporting motorcycles, and when this bike came out, it offered a level of performance that was unheard of in a mid-size machine. These bikes were very, very quick, and in a straight line could compete with bikes of much larger displacement. Moving on to the Suzukis, I thought this little 100cc two-stroke Suzuki road bike was really neat looking. This is a bike that was for sale at the show, and small street bikes like this were very popular in the late 60s and early 70s. Another really pretty two-stroke Suzuki at the show was this 1967 250 X6 Suzuki. This is a scrambler model, and you can tell that by the high mount pipes. The motor in this bike is a twin-cylinder, air-cooled, two-stroke. And that brings us to this gorgeous little GT 250 Suzuki. This is another twin-cylinder, air-cooled, two-stroke design. I love the clean styling on this bike, and I think the color scheme is so cool as well. Another fantastic Suzuki at Leesport was this GSXR 750. This is one of the first generation bikes. The original GSXR 750 and 1100 motorcycles really defined what a hardcore sport bike was. This bike was designed from the outset with racing in mind. It is literally a race bike with lights, and it had very few creature comforts on it at all. This generation of the GSXR 750 was powered by a 16-valve, air and oil-cooled inline 4-cylinder motor. These bikes were beautiful, they were very fast, they packed a lot of performance, and they had a very raw feel to them when you rode them. The final bike that stood out to me at the show was this 1947 500cc Norton motorcycle. This is an air-cooled single-cylinder machine. Looking at the engine on the bike, it is just mechanical artwork. It was so pretty, and it was such a treat to see this classic beauty at the show. Alright guys, that kind of wraps up this video. I absolutely love classic bike swap meets. You never know what you're going to find there. I'm always on the lookout for a couple of parts for my classic bikes, and the swap meets are a great place to find those rare pieces that you're looking for. Every year that I've attended the Leesport show, it continues to grow, and this one was the best turnout that I've seen there to date. It was great to talk to fellow owners of classic bikes, and it was just awesome to see so many cool bikes under one roof. As always, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, enjoy the ride.